the year without a Santa Claus. Have you been told, did you ever hear of the curious, furious, fidgety year when Santa Claus unhitched his sleigh and vowed he was taking a holiday? How did it happen? This way. It was long ago, before you were living. Not yet Christmas, but past Thanksgiving, though I can't give you the very date. Santa got up that morning, late, pulled on one boot, then its twin, ruffled the whiskers on his chin, and sat back down on the side of the bed. "Great North Star, but I'm tired," he said. "Painting wagons, red and bright, sharpening ice skates half the night. Wrapping presents in ribbons and gauze has worn me weary," said Santa Claus. "Quick in my back, cold in my nose, aches in my fingers and all 10 toes, and a sort of a kind of a kink inside whenever I think of that Christmas ride." Into his workshop limped the saint. He sniffed the varnish, he smelled the paint, and a reeling feeling came over him, stealing to see things crammed from floor to ceiling. Rocking horses with shaggy manes, balls, dolls, electric trains, gloves, mitts, doctor's kits, rubber boots, cowboy suits, kites for flying in the parks, bicycles, Noah's Arks, and he started to shake, and he started to shiver at thought of the load he must soon deliver. And he sighed, "Oh dear," as he buttoned his vest, "I wish one year I could take a rest." When the words were out, he stood stock still, and then he whispered, "I think I will." "I will," he cried with his eyes ablaze. "Everyone else gets holidays. Sailors and tailors and cooks do. Policemen and writers of books do. Tamers of lions and leopards. Preachers and teachers and shepherds. Watchmen, Scotchmen, Spaniards, Turks, butchers and bakers and grocery clerks, they take time off as Christmas nears, all except me. So it appears that, saint or not, it's time I got my first vacation in 1,000 years." Out in the stable, nuzzling hay, the reindeer dreamed of Christmas Day. But Santa phoned to the reindeer groom, "Hang up the harness in the big storeroom." He called to his elves. He told each gnome, "Cover up the shelves. We're staying home." "What? Cover the shelves?" cried gnomes and elves. "Cover the dolls and electric trains and the rocking horses with shaggy manes and the rubber boots for splashing in parks and the cowboy suits and the Noah's Arks? Alas, alack!" For they couldn't believe he wouldn't go riding on Christmas Eve. "Put 'em away!" roared Santa, vexed. "This year's presents will do for next. Warn the people, tell the papers I'm much too tired for Christmas capers. Quick in my back, a cold that lingers, aches in my toes and all 10 fingers, bit of lumbago, touch of gout. Climbing down chimneys is simply out. I may be the saint of the children's nation, but this is the year of my first vacation." Well, you can imagine more or less what happened when that news reached the press. Headlines screamed, wires went humming. "Santa says too tired, not coming." And as the word flashed far and wide, you should have heard how the children cried. So violently they sobbed their griefs, the shops ran out of handkerchiefs. Their tears filled up the kitchen sinks and cellars and empty skating rinks. They wept in school. At play they wept. They dampened their pillows while they slept. Before those darlings' eyes got drier, all the rivers rose 3 feet higher, and I don't know what would have happened quite, except for Ignatius Thistlewhite. Ignatius Thistlewhite was a boy in Texas, or was it Illinois, 6 years old, but brave for his years. He sobbed no sobs, and he wept no tears, but stood up tall in his class to say, "Santa deserves a holiday." "No, no, no," came the children's plaint. "What is Christmas without our saint?" "Shucks now, fellows. Gosh, good gracious. Christmas is Christmas," cried Ignatius. "And everyone tells me whom I've met it's a day to give as well as to get. Since all these years in the children's cause, Santa's been giving without one pause. Let's pull together in the Christmas weather and give this year to Santa Claus." "Hooray!" his classmates said. "He's right. 3 cheers for Ignatius Thistlewhite." Fast as a hurricane, children hurled that happy message around the world. Over each continent, isle, and isthmus, "Let's give Santa a Merry Christmas." With snow, the earth was already whitening, but they rolled up their sleeves and worked like lightning. They opened their piggy banks, racked their brains. They chartered buses and special trains and ships and sledges and hydroplanes. To reach the pole by the 24th was all their goal. East, south, west, north came gifts and gifts and gifts to spare from clever children everywhere. Slippers with zippers to zip on, soap for his bath or to slip on, geraniums pink in a pot, one guppy, a puppy named Spot, balsam pillows, strawberry jam, dressing gowns with his monogram, 10 harmonicas for him to play on, hand-painted pictures done in crayon, mufflers, pipes, an easy chair, and lots of winter underwear. In New York State, a boy called Pudge cooked him a plate of homemade fudge, and little girl guides of Britain each made him a scarlet mitten, while a boy in Siam sent a Siamese kitten. They sent him lemon drops by the carton, ashtrays modeled in kindergarten, jackknives, pen wipers, cakes and crullers, and magic pencils that wrote 3 colors. Tots, who hadn't a penny to spend, wrote him letters signed "A Friend." And they had more fun that strange December, they said, than any they could remember. Up at the pole, in the fragrant hay, the idle reindeer dreamed at play. Comet nickered for oats and corn. Dancer brandished his velvet horn, while sadly, sorrowly, lounged at home each idle elf and gnome. Santa sat poking the fire and blinking, but nobody knew what he was thinking. Then, suddenly from the sky, there came the sound of planes. He heard the hoot and the cry of ships and special trains. "Noel!" tooted the sledges. "Honk!" the buses said, and out of his study window Santa put his head. He looked to the left, he stared to the right. He didn't trust his own eyesight. So many, so merry, so more and more packages were rolling to his front door. Smack at his doorsill they thundered. 1,000,000, 1,000, 100. Flat ones and fat ones and lean ones, crimson and silver and green ones, broad ones, odd ones, plain, romantic ones, little and big and great gigantic ones, parcels from London, Rome, Atlanta, and each addressed alike to Santa. Atop them all, a banner glinted where Ignatius Thistlewhite had printed these words: "Good luck and holiday mirth from all the children upon the earth. With toots and hoots and honks light-hearted, the buses turned and the trains departed, leaving the saints surrounded by parcels piled to the polar sky. Santa was silent for a minute. His eye looked bright, but a tear stood in it. Then he blew his nose like a trumpet blast. "God bless my soul," he said at last, "by the big Borealis, by my maps and charts, I didn't know children had such kind hearts. How could a man feel gladder, prouder?" He turned to his staff, and his voice got louder. "Gnomes, elves, every mother's son, don't stand staring, there's work to be done. Bring in the barrels, fetch in the boxes, carry in those packages, and don't break one." Where to put them? There wasn't space in parlor or study or any place. They overflowed bureau, couch, and table, filled the house, the sheds, the stable, slid from mantels, jammed the casement, bulged from attic and burst from basement. "There's nothing to do," exclaimed the elves, "except to empty some workshop shelves." Off those shelves, then, Santa's forces whisked the painted rocking horses. When the presents wouldn't fit, down came kite and doctor's kit. Still there wasn't room for all, so away went basketball, cowboy suit, rubber boot, bicycle, and talking doll, till by the time the twilight reigned, not a single toy on the shelves remained. All were sacked and packed away in the one place left, the Christmas sleigh. Then Santa gazed from floor to rafter and gave his mightiest shout of laughter, laughed loud ho-hos, laughed vast ha-has. What a joke, he chortled, on Santa Claus. You might as well phone the reindeer groom to take down the harness in the big storeroom. Get me my gloves, the robe for my lap, and my coat and my warmest stocking cap. There sits the sleigh with the toys inside, so what can I do tonight but ride? "What about your gout?" the gnomes cried out. "What about your aches and the crick in your spine?" "Pooh," laughed Santa, "my back feels fine. Never felt younger, never felt stronger, haven't got a symptom any longer. And before the midnight bells go chiming, I'd like to do some chimney climbing. So harness the reindeer, let 'em rip. It's time to begin my favorite trip." With flurry and scurry and chatter and hurry, they brought him his cap and his lap robe furry. They roused up Cupid, they rubbed down Vixen, they polished the bells on Donner and Blitzen. There were cheers from the gnomes, from the elves applause. Then off through the night flew Santa Claus. And I've heard the old people often say, there never was such a Christmas day. Never such joy after Santa'd swirled from rooftop to rooftop around the world, while at the home of a sleepy boy in Texas, or was it Illinois, a special letter was left that night addressed to Ignatius Thistlewhite. It was clipped to the handlebars like a medal of the best two-wheeler a boy could pedal. "Dear Sir," was written in Santa's hand, "please thank the children in every land. Tell them I'll take good care, I hope, of the guppy and the puppy and the slippery soap. I like my pipes, I love my chair, and I do appreciate the underwear. And I pledge this promise on my sled and pack, year after year, I'll be coming back Vacations, I guess, weren't meant for me. I'll never want another one. Yours, S.C. And that's one reason, you may believe, why children are merry on Christmas Eve. You know yourself as you hang your stocking. It doesn't matter if the winds are knocking. Though the storm falls heavy, though the great gale roars, though nobody else would budge outdoors, snug in your bed while the tempest drums, you can count your blessings on fingers and thumbs, for yearly, newly, faithfully, truly, somehow, Santa Claus always comes. A visit from St. Nicholas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutter, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face, and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere they drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." How Mrs. Santa Claus saved Christmas. Everybody knows how Santa Claus looks. You've seen his picture in your picture books. You've heard about his house with the North Pole near, and his sack, and his sleigh, and his 8 reindeer. But did you ever before in your life know Santa Claus had a wife? Well, he has. She's the reason he doesn't get thinner, for she serves his breakfast, she cooks his dinner, she warms his slippers and dries his boots and mends the fur on his Santa Claus suits. And what is she like? By best report, she's a cozy, rosy, grandmotherly sort, with a dimple in her cheek, a twinkle in her eye, and a smell of vanilla and hot mince pie. But the nicest thing that I've heard about her is Santa couldn't get on without her. For it may be Santa Claus who makes toys for all the children in the world. It may be Santa Claus who drives his sleigh through the winter sky and climbs down waiting chimneys. But it's Mrs. Claus who gives him his good ideas. "Santa," she'll tell him in mid-November, "there's a brand new boy at the Smiths, remember? He ought to have something that's just his size. Say a nice blue rattle the color of his eyes. And Haverford Jones, now don't forget, he's pining for a grown-up chemistry set. His parents pretend that it can't be done, but I like Haverford. Bring him one." She knows when children in the state of Maine are ready for their first electric train, or she'll say briskly, "On Earth I hear dresses for ladies are short this year, so don't you think that the fashion calls for shorter dresses on little girls' dolls?" And Santa hems and Santa haws, but he usually listens to Mrs. Claus, except just once when they couldn't agree. And this is the story as it came to me. It was Christmas Eve at the end of the day. The reindeer nickered as they champed their hay. Elbows flying, the reindeer groom polished up the harness in the big storeroom, while Santa, weary from the wear and tear, lounged by the fire in his easy chair. "I think," he murmured with pardonable pride, "everything is ready for my midnight ride. Everything's jolly as it's always been. The sleigh stands waiting with gifts crammed in. Tricycles, bicycles, dump truck toys, and cowboy outfits for 1,000,000 boys. Jump ropes, jack stones, dolls with curls, and sets of dishes for 1,000,000 girls. Books for the bookish who sit and read. Baseball mitts for the baseball breed. Kites for the tomboy or balls to pitch. Practical presents for the not-so-rich. Candy for the sweet tooth, chess for the clever. It's just as it's been forever and ever. I do think Christmas will be fine this year. Don't you agree with that, my dear?" Mrs. Claus was washing up the dinner dishes and stacking them in the china closet. She wiped her hands on her apron, turned around to Santa and looked at him over her spectacles. And then she said firmly, "No." Santa was so surprised he nearly fell off his chair into the fire. "No," she said in the clearest of voices. "I'm tired of our same old, tame old choices. Maybe you'll consider that my plans are strange, but just one Christmas, let's have a change." "Change?" asked Santa in a startled way. Said she, "I thought of it just today. We don't want the helpers to overhear, so come a little closer. I'll whisper in your ear." Up on her toes stood Mrs. C, and "Please, please, like a honeybee. Like a bee in clover. She whispered her secret over and over. But Santa Claus's look got blacker and blacker. His breath came pop like a red firecracker. His whiskers wiggled. His lip drew down. He put on his terrible Santa Claus frown. Then, "Stop!" he thundered. "Not one word more!" And he stamped from his chair to the bedroom door. "Me change Christmas? Why, what a question! It's given me sneezes and indigestion, a pain in my shoulder, a rash, a cough. I must have a nap to sleep it off. It's hours till midnight by the clock on the shelf. Let nobody wake me. I'll wake myself." And he went indignantly into his room, muttering, "I never heard of such nonsense." The door shut behind him, and Mrs. Claus heard the bed creak as he threw himself down upon it. She finished sweeping up the kitchen, and then sat calmly down with her crocheting. The clock ticked on and on and on. Soon it was 12 o'clock, and Santa hadn't stirred. At 12:10, the reindeer groom phoned Mrs. Claus from the big storeroom. "Please tell Santa the reindeer wait while children dream in their beds. He's late. Already the stars are a silver warning. Doesn't he know it's Christmas morning?" Tap! She tapped at the bedroom door. Tap, tap, tap. And one tap more. But poor tired Santa, worn to a splinter, slept like a bear holed up for winter. Slept like a porcupine curled in a queue. What was a wife to do? She put down her needle, she wound her thread, she gave one toss of her merry head, then half to herself said, "This may shake him, but didn't he tell me I shouldn't wake him? I have the addresses, I know the way, and somebody has to drive that sleigh." On went a muffler about her throat. On went the big red fur-trimmed coat. Though it seemed like a giant's size too wide, she belted it round her, a pillow inside. On went the big boots, on went the cap. She picked up gloves and the Christmas map, and rummaged in a cupboard till she found therein a false set of whiskers to fasten on her chin, till you couldn't have told with a casual stare that it wasn't Santa Claus standing there. And maybe the reindeer sensed the change, and maybe the groom may have thought it strange that never a word passed Santa's lip as he climbed in the sleigh and cracked the whip. But long before they could ask or pause, into the air flew Mrs. Claus. Dawn was coloring the sky when Santa woke. He rubbed his eyes, looked at his watch, and leaped from bed as if he had been stung by a hive of hornets. "I've missed the ride," he shouted, and he began to ring every bell in the place. Elves and gnomes came running from all parts of the house, half dressed, half asleep, and very frightened indeed. They could not understand what he was storming about. "By the stars and the Dipper, by the Milky Way, who let me sleep till Christmas Day? 1,000 years and never a miss. But how can children forgive me this? I'm ruined, I'm finished, and all because they'll give up depending on Santa Claus." "But, sir," cried the groom, "it can't be so. I waved goodbye to you hours ago, with the deer and the sleigh and the gift-crammed pack, and well, there you are now, sir, coming back." His mouth fell open with a foolish grin as the reindeer team came jingling in, and gay as a sparrow, though twice as stout, a little red figure climbed stiffly out. "I must admit they were hard on me, all those chimneys," said Mrs. C. The saint was taken by such surprise he could merely mumble and blink his eyes. Then he roared so loud that the roof got quivery. "You mean to say that you made delivery? You drove my reindeer? You steered the sleigh? Then heaven help children on earth today." "Now, Santa," Mrs. Claus said quietly, "wait till I get this big old coat off and I'll explain." And she pulled him down into his chair. "After all, you told me most particularly that I wasn't to wake you up. Though now that you've asked me, I must confess it's an odd sort of Christmas, more or less. I wasn't quite sure how you had things fixed up. Maybe I got the addresses mixed up. Yet anyhow, Santa," she said and smiled, "I did leave a present for every child. Skis for the bookworms, books to read on rainy Sundays for the baseball breed. For girls who had nothing but dolls on hand, nice red dump trucks for dumping sand. Nice soft pandas, huggable and fat, for little boys waiting for a cowboy hat. Useless presents, extravagant and funny, for children with never a cent of money. Practical presents for those more rich, for studious fellows, balls to pitch. Ribbons for tomboys, jacks for their brothers, electric trains for fathers and mothers, chess for the sweet tooth, candy for the clever. It's not what it's been forever and ever, but I did bring a rattle just his size for that boy at the Smith's with the new blue eyes. And I promise you one thing I didn't forget, Haverford Jones's chemistry set." "Alas," moaned Santa, hands to his face, "I'll never recover from this disgrace. Glance at the earth. You're sure to see children crying by the Christmas tree. Children sobbing till they wet their sleeve for gifts expected they didn't receive. Listen, you hear them?" And leagues around, up from the world came a curious sound, a sound like the surge of waves on a shore, first a ripple and then a roar, till the North Pole trembled, both fore and after. But it wasn't weeping, it was children's laughter. Giggles and gales and peals of mirth from startled children around the earth. Gusts of merriment, cheers, applause, and a chorus of "Thank you, Santa Claus, for bringing last night through the dark and cold the wish of our hearts we had never told." Santa stared at Mrs. Claus for a long, long time without a word. Suddenly, he began to laugh too. He laughed so hard that she had to tap him on the back for fear he would choke. He laughed so loud that he sent snow sliding down the window panes. When he could speak once more, he said stoutly, "Merry Christmas!" And Mrs. Claus said, "Merry Christmas," back. "By the wild north wind," he chuckled then, "I can take a joke with the best of men. We need a change or I'm a dunce. All right, my dear, we've had it. Once. But after this, leave the ride to me." "I'll be delighted," said Mrs. C. And they and the helpers sat down to a breakfast of bacon and eggs and sausages and fried chicken and hot cakes with maple syrup and 2 kinds of rolls and marmalade and currant jelly and plum pudding. But Mrs. Claus was so tired out from chimney climbing that Santa had to get supper that night for himself. The Gingerbread Boy. Once there was a little old woman and a little old man, and they lived together in a little old house. They didn't have any little girls or little boys at all. So one day, when it was nearly Christmas time, the little old woman chuckled to herself and said, "I'll make a gingerbread boy for my little old man and give it to him on Christmas Day." So she rolled out a piece of spicy dough and cut it into the shape of a handsome gingerbread boy. She was just about to put him in the oven when she thought how much fun it would be to dress him up. So she made a chocolate jacket with cinnamon seeds for buttons. His eyes were two fat, fine raisins. His mouth was made of pink sugar, and he had a gay little cap of green frosting. When the little old woman had rolled him out and dressed him in his fine clothes and pinched his gingerbread shoes into shape, she put him into a pan. Then she put the pan into the oven and shut the door. She thought, "Now we shall have a little boy of our own." When it was time for the gingerbread boy to be done, she opened the oven door and pulled out the pan. But before she had time to pull him out, the gingerbread boy hopped right out of the oven by himself, skipped through the kitchen door, and ran down the path to the fields. The little old woman and the little old man ran after him as fast as they could, but he just laughed and shouted, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And they couldn't catch him. Into the fields he ran. A plump brown rabbit, nibbling grass at the edge of the woods, looked up as the gingerbread boy went past, and his bunny nose quivered hungrily. "Stop, little gingerbread boy," said the rabbit. "I want to eat you." The little gingerbread boy laughed out loud and said, "I've run away from a little old woman and a little old man, and I can run away from you, I can." As the rabbit hopped on as fast as he could to try to catch him, the gingerbread boy looked over his shoulder and cried, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And the rabbit couldn't catch him. The little gingerbread boy ran on and on until he came to a cow by the roadside. "Stop, little gingerbread boy," said the cow. "I want to eat you." The little gingerbread boy laughed out loud and said, "I've run away from a little old woman and a little old man, a rabbit, and I can run away from you, I can." As the cow chased him, he looked over his shoulder and cried, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And the cow couldn't catch him. The little gingerbread boy ran on till he came to a horse in the pasture. "Please stop, little gingerbread boy," said the horse. "You look very good to eat." The little gingerbread boy laughed out loud and said, "I've run away from a little old woman, a little old man, a rabbit, a cow, and I can run away from you, I can." As the horse chased him, he looked over his shoulder and cried, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And the horse couldn't catch him. By and by, the little gingerbread boy came to a barn full of threshers. They tried to pick him up, saying, "Don't run so fast, little gingerbread boy. You look good to eat." But the little gingerbread boy ran harder than ever, and as he ran, he cried out, "I've run away from a little old woman, a little old man, a rabbit, a cow, a horse, and I can run away from you, I can." When he found out that he was ahead of the threshers, he turned around and shouted back to them, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man." And the threshers couldn't catch him. Then the little gingerbread boy ran faster than ever until he came to a field full of mowers. When the mowers saw how fine he looked, they ran after him, calling out, "Wait a bit, little gingerbread boy, we wish to eat you." But the little gingerbread boy laughed harder than ever and said, "I've run away from a little old woman, a little old man, a rabbit, a cow, a horse, a barn full of threshers, and I can run away from you, I can." When he found that he was ahead of the mowers, he turned and shouted back to them, "Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." And the mowers couldn't catch him. By this time, the little gingerbread boy didn't think that anybody could catch him. He saw a fox coming across a field. The fox looked at him and began to run. But the little gingerbread boy shouted across to him, "You can't catch me." The fox began to run faster, and the little gingerbread boy ran faster. As he ran, he said, "I've run away from a little old woman, a little old man, a rabbit, a cow, a horse, a barn full of threshers, a field full of mowers, and I can run away from you, I can. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man." "Why," said the fox, "I would not catch you if I could. I would not even think of it." Just then the little gingerbread boy came to a river. He could not swim across, and he wanted to keep running away from everybody. "Jump on my tail, and I will take you across," said the fox. So the gingerbread boy jumped on the fox's tail, and the fox swam into the river. A little distance from the shore, he said, "Little gingerbread boy, I think you had better get on my back, or you may fall off." So the little gingerbread boy jumped on his back. After swimming a little farther, the fox said, "You will get wet there. You'd better jump on my shoulder." So the little gingerbread boy jumped on his shoulder. When they were near the other side of the river, the fox said, "Little gingerbread boy, my back is tired. You had better jump on my nose." So the little gingerbread boy jumped on his nose. As soon as the fox reached the shore, he threw back his head, and into his mouth fell the little gingerbread boy. The fox began to gobble him up. "Dear me," said the gingerbread boy, "I'm a quarter gone." The next minute he said, "Why, I'm half gone." The next minute he said, "My goodness gracious, I am 3/4 gone." And after that, the little gingerbread boy never said anything more at all.